the surface, the CaddyTalk Cube may be the most technologically advanced rangefinder on the market. I have gotten more questions about this rangefinder than probably any other over the past year, and it's finally time to review it. And I've got some thoughts. So first impressions out of the box, CaddyTalk does an excellent job with presentation. Not only does the device itself look cool and retro and completely different than any other rangefinder, the packaging all feels very high-end, and it certainly feels representative of its $350 price point, if not feeling like a more expensive device than that based on the way it looks and the way the packaging feels. So if you're unfamiliar with the CaddyTalk Cube, the biggest feature that it has is this was the first device that I know of to have a triangulation feature. So let's say you're playing cart path only and you don't want to carry like 7 clubs out to your ball. You shoot the ball, then you shoot the pin, and then it will give you the distance between the two numbers. So without even walking out to your ball, you can know you're 148 yards away, you need to grab a 7-iron. Super convenient. We're going to talk about how well that actually works here in just a minute. This device also has 2 different slope modes, including an environmental slope mode, which is going to take into account not just slope, but humidity, altitude, temperature, things like that to give you the most accurate numbers possible. So the only other device I know of that has those features built in that aren't GPS based is the Bushnell Pro X3, and that thing costs, well, almost twice the price as this. So on the surface, this feels like kind of a no-brainer buy, considering all of the tech features you get and the fact you can actually get it for just under $300. You can use the coupon code BREAKING8015. It will knock it down to right around $297, which is an incredible deal for how much technology is built into this. Also keep in mind, if you click the links, if you use the code, I will get a commission. And if you think that makes me biased, well, then just watch the rest of this review because I think you'll see that I'm going to be completely honest on my thoughts about this device. So in terms of size, feel, this is definitely on the compact side of laser rangefinders. Like this thing is pretty small, and for me, as soon as I started using it, I kind of found it a little bit difficult to, get the view in the viewfinder that I wanted to, where you can actually get that clear view, and it's like using binoculars where sometimes you can't get your eye to line up right. So I've had some issues personally getting it to work. The display is a high quality 6x magnification. It doesn't look as good as some other 6x magnification units I've used, but it definitely doesn't look bad. But it does have a great 2-color OLED display that honestly looks great regardless of what the environmental conditions look like. That said, one critique I do have is I wish I had a little bit more control over that brightness. This is similar to some other similar models that have that type of OLED display, like the Voice Caddy SL2 or TL1, where it's going to automatically adjust the brightness based on the conditions, and I wish I just had a little bit more manual control over that. Not a huge deal, but just something I would kind of prefer. Hey, real quick, not sure if this rangefinder is right for you or something else? Go take our 30-second quiz. You're gonna answer a few questions around what you were looking for, and I'm going to give you my best recommendation based on your needs. You can click the link below, and you can do that while you're watching the rest of this video. All right, back to it. So when it comes to using the CaddyTalk Cube, it's not the most user-friendly device I've ever used. There are a lot of different features, but if you don't know exactly how to use it, it can be a little bit confusing for how to actually make that happen. There's 2 special slope modes as well as just a regular slope mode that's going to take into account just elevation from the pin. There's also that environmental slope mode that I mentioned that takes into account all the different environmental factors. And there's also magic slope mode, which is supposed to take into account height and trajectory of the clubs you're hitting. So for instance, if you're hitting a 4-iron, the height and trajectory is going to be different than if you're hitting a pitching wedge, and so it's going to give you a plays-like distance that's reflective of that. Honestly, after using it and reading through everything it's supposed to do, I'm still not entirely sure how it works. So that's a mode that, while I guess it's a nice feature to have, isn't something that I personally use that much. When it comes to usability, you've got the focus ring here, which is great, works well. You've got the 1 button on top, which I like. I like it when you only have 1 button. There's only so much that you can do, but you also have another button on the bottom, and this is what's going to get you into the menu system, and it's what's going to allow you to change slope modes, get into caddy mode, and this is where things kind of get tricky. So if you're just on the course you're playing, you just hit the bottom button once, and that's going to take you into caddy mode, which is that triangulation feature. Generally works pretty well, but if you want to go get into environmental mode or magic slope or leave it on regular slope, you have to hold it down, and that takes you into a menu system that's just kind of a little clunky and a little confusing. So I would have maybe liked to see a little bit of a better implementation of that, but all of those modes are there, and so there's no denying that this thing can do a lot. When it comes to using that triangulation feature, it works pretty well. So I recently had a round where I was down at Reynolds Lake Oconee playing their brand new Richland course. And because we were playing it the day it opened, it was cart path only. So I was like, perfect, great opportunity to test this out. So I've used it on a number of holes, and honestly, my experience has been a little bit of a mixed bag. Oftentimes, it took me a couple times using the mode to make sure it was getting all the right numbers. So, trying to hit the ball and then move and hit the flag and make sure that it's registering and gives you the correct number, like it didn't always do that. Sometimes I thought I got the ball and then I would move over to the flag, but in the indicator screen, it was actually like, nope, it was still flashing on the ball, so it didn't register that. And that kind of goes back to my original point where I said sometimes it's kind of hard to see in the viewfinder. So if my eye's kind of moving around and I can't consistently always see the screen, I might think that I got the ball, I move it to go get the flag, but actually I hadn't. This was made a little bit more difficult, and I think this is part of the crux of my issue, is when I was playing, I was using the silicone sleeve that's included with this. It's a really slick looking sleeve that I think is only 20 bucks extra. It also adds a magnet. That's one feature this doesn't have, is it doesn't have a built-in magnet due to all the electronics that are in it. So that sleeve adds some weather protection, adds the magnet, which is nice to have. But I found that when I was trying to hit the range button, it never quite got it. And so using that sleeve, I honestly had to take it off 3/4 of the way through the round because it wasn't allowing me to consistently range distances, because it seemed like there was just too much give in the sleeve and it wasn't always pressing the button when I needed it to. When it comes to using this just as a straight up laser rangefinder, it worked pretty well. I definitely found it a little bit harder to lock onto the flag at times, and it would seem like it would bounce back and forth between yardages more than I would like for a product that's this high tech at this price point. But in pretty much every case, even if it took me a couple tries, I was able to get an accurate distance that I felt confident with. One other unique feature of this is it has a built-in screen on the side that will both tell you what mode you're in as well as what the yardage ranged was. I don't totally understand why you need to have it, because if you're looking through this, you're gonna get your number and you're gonna be done. It's like you don't need to look at it and then look at the screen, and there's not a magnet on it, so it's not like you're gonna put it on a cart and get GPS yardages. So the screen is like a cool feature, it's not very practical. I don't know really what the point of having it is. When it comes to battery life, this thing is excellent. Even though it's USB charged, which I don't necessarily love, it's rated for 10,000 actuations, which means that, well, you can use this for a whole lot of rounds before you actually are going to need to recharge it. So if you're someone who's worried about forgetting to charge your rangefinder, that's not gonna be an issue here, considering you're probably only gonna need to charge it like once or twice a season, if that. So all that to say, final thoughts on the CaddyTalk Cube. This was a device that I really wanted to love because I know a lot of people do love this device, and I've been asked so many questions about it. It's got a ton of tech, it looks really cool, and considering you can pick it up for under 300 bucks, it comes at a great price for what you get. The problem is my experience actually using it just wasn't as good as I'd hoped it would be. Figuring out the menu system was always a little bit clunky, the triangulation mode worked well when it worked, but it didn't always work for me. I was having issues with button pushes when I was using the neoprene sleeve. I think just across the board, it took me a little bit longer than I would have hoped to get whatever number I was looking for. If I was just looking for a basic number to the flag, getting my eye to line up, as well as also getting it to lock onto the flag, always took just a little bit longer than I'd hoped. Triangulation, sometimes I got it on the first try, but sometimes it would take me 3 tries to make sure I was doing everything properly to get it to work. The only other device I know out there that also has that triangulation mode is the Voice Caddy Laser Fit, which comes in at over $100 less, and while it's not nearly as high tech, while it doesn't have nearly as good of a screen, specifically that triangulation feature, I found to be easier to use on that than this. Don't get me wrong, this has a whole lot extra as a higher quality device as a whole, but when it comes to simplicity, that one generally works better for a lower price point. So if you're interested in buying this and you like the screen and you like all of the tech features, I would say go buy it. I think you're definitely going to be happy with it. Part of the problem for me is I've reviewed over 40 different rangefinders, so I have a pretty good sense of how I like things to work, how things should work, and what's good or great performance versus just what's okay performance. So while this has a ton of features at a great price, I found the performance to just kind of be okay in comparison to other products in a similar price range. That said, there's not that many products out there that provide as much as this does for the price you can get it. So that's going to be intriguing to a lot of people, and if you decide to pick it up, I do think you are generally going to be happy with the performance. With that, my name is Sean Ogle. I'm the founder of this thing here at Breaking 180, where we talk about cool golf products and cool golf courses. If you want to see my list of all the best rangefinders out there, where they excel, where they don't, and which ones I think you should buy, you can click on the link below. I will link that up. And if you're still not sure which one is right for you, go take our 30-second quiz. You're going to answer a few questions about what you're looking for, and I will give you my best recommendation based on your needs. And if you do decide this is right for you and you found this review helpful, remember you can use the code BREAKING8015. You're going to save 15% and you're going to drop this down to under $300, which is a great value. Hope you have an excellent day, and we'll see you on the next video. Peace.